Hey, girlfriends, welcome to the Girl Talk podcast today. We are here with a guest, and I want you to grab some coffee, grab your favorite drink, sit back, and relax. On the Girl Talk podcast, we are all about keeping it real. And today we have a conversation that is a very difficult one to talk about. And we know it's going to be an encouragement to you. So I want to welcome to the Girl Talk podcast today, Mylee. And Mylee Restelle is here, formerly Mylee Marzak. That's her maiden name. And some of you might know her, but Mylee has a passion to help women who are struggling with infertility. And I am excited to bring that to you today. But first, let's start with Mylee. Tell us about yourself. Where are you from? Married? Catch us up a little bit.
Well, I grew up here in the Hammond area. I was here for about 24 years of my life. I've lived in Louisiana and Texas. And about 3 years ago now, we moved back to the area. And then a year after we got back to the Hammond area, God called us to Wabash, Indiana, where my husband and I both work at a residential placement facility for troubled teens. Mm-hmm. And we have the opportunity to work with them day in and day out. We both absolutely love what we get to do. My husband and I have been married for 5.5 years. It'll be 6 in March. We have the sweetest rescue pit, Ani. Aww. If you ever need some cute dog photos, just look me up on Facebook or Instagram. I'm always posting about her. She's the sweetest.
And you guys lived in a tiny house, right?
Yes,
I think that's
we
the coolest
did.
thing ever. They lived in a tiny house for a while.
Back in Texas.
And they loved it.
We did. We loved it. It was 12 by 32.
Wow.
And it wasn't even really a one bed because there wasn't a door frame on the bedroom part. It was just kind of like off room. The back of the house. Well, it was one big room. There was a bathroom. But it was like you walked into the kitchen and then there was a little seating area, bathroom, a hallway with the washer and dryer, which was wonderful in the tiny house to even have because most of them it's like, yeah, we had a full-size washer dryer.
Oh, really? Right, it wasn't there. Like this, like, you know how they have one unit where it washes and dries.
It was both. It was massive.
Wow.
In the hallway right there. And then you walked past that and you got to the bedroom. And the only downside was there was not enough storage. I feel like there could have been some other storage opportunities.
Yeah.
But other than that, we loved it. We absolutely loved.
How did you meet your husband, Will?
Online.
Who was interested first?
I was. Okay. I sent the first message. I joined.
Do you recommend online dating?
Yes.
Okay.
Wholeheartedly.
Okay, cool.
Wholeheartedly, but you have to weed through the creeps.
What were you on?
I was on Christian Mingle and eHarmony, I think was the other one.
Okay.
We met on Christian Mingle and I joined March 30th to I think it was a 7-day free trial. And he had already had his subscription, but hadn't had any luck. So he decided to give it one more month. So he was going to give it the month of April. And we met April 3rd. And then our first date was April 14th in Baton Rouge. And the rest is history.
Oh, that's so sweet. I didn't know it was met online. That's cool.
Yeah.
Aw. All right, so that takes us up to present day. You live in Wabash, Indiana, and you minister to teens.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Mm-hmm. So Mylee has, she's got a Facebook group, Instagram too, right?
Instagram page.
Instagram also. She wrote a devotional all about the topic of infertility. And that's the topic that we're talking about today. So I want to segue into it with just a couple questions maybe, and then I want you to share your heart.
Sounds good.
Because it's a heart topic.
Yes.
Not an easy one, that's for sure. Maybe let's start with what compelled you to begin this topic? What brought it to your attention to speak out there? A lot of women, like you say, I'll pull up a chair, I'll sit with you in the dark. I like how you say that all the time. But a lot of women just sit in the dark by themselves. So maybe walk us through what your thoughts were there.
2020 was a weird year for everybody, I think. Just there was a whole mess. And it was a dark year for me. Infertility wise. And I fell into this funk. I wasn't myself. My wonderful husband put up with all the highs and lows of the emotions that infertility brings. And, back in September when we moved to Wabash last year, it was a year ago yesterday. I was like, I gotta figure out my way out of this mess because I didn't have a community of women. My sister and I have conversed and talked about it, but she wasn't there, you know, and it's like I moved to a whole new area. I don't have friends on campus yet. And,
Sure.
you know, at that time when you're in an infertility funk, it seems like everybody has kids.
Children.
So you can't relate. I mean, even my best friend has kids. And we've talked about it, you know, and I'll get back to that. But I didn't have a way out, and I didn't know where to start. So I just started writing in a journal. I just wrote down all my thoughts, everything. Sometimes it was on my phone. If I was laying there in the dark and couldn't sleep and Will was sleeping already, I would just type it out on my phone. I'd pull out my notes and just type. And so for the longest time, I fought God on it. I was like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to put myself out there. I'm not going to, because the whole time he's like, why am I having you write these down? Like, why are you being prompted to start journaling out of nowhere? Because I've never been a person who journals. Sure. It's just not my thing. So in and of itself, the fact that I was actually journaling about it was different.
Yeah.
So I battled it probably, oh my goodness, probably for 5-6 months, maybe even longer than that. And finally, Will and I were on our way to Texas to see his family. And I just ran the idea past him, and it was all we talked about for the next 11 hours of the drive.
Wow.
And we were just rapid firing different ideas. We were already working on designs and how we would do it. And my biggest drive, I guess you would say, obviously to honor the Lord through this, but my other factor would be I want women to have the resources that I wish I had had when it was dark for me last year, which is why I always say, if it's dark, please let me pull up a chair. I don't care if I don't know you. I don't care if you've had the infertility diagnosis for 2 weeks, 2 days. It can get dark.
Yeah.
It's a roller coaster. And I will pull up a chair. I will sit on the phone with you while you cry. I will sit on the phone with you while you scream and ask God why and ask me why. I will do it. I've done it before, and I have no problem doing it again. But I just wanted other women to have what I didn't have.
Yeah.
And if that meant putting myself out there and being vulnerable for myself, because the devotional is 12 of the entries are from my personal journal. Like 12 of these are my heart on paper.
Oh.
And the other 2 are from the male perspective as a husband, and, you know, who struggles watching his wife and struggles with the desire to have a child of his own as well.
Sure.
But I want people to know that I get it. I understand. We may deal with it differently, but that doesn't change the diagnosis of infertility. And I just wanted people to know that there is someone out there that can help them.
And you even say the word diagnosis of infertility, but I'm assuming that there are probably even women that don't have the specific diagnosis. You know, they just struggle, and maybe even taking that step to go to a doctor would be difficult or hard. And then you mentioned the term a roller coaster. I can't imagine how the excitement when your monthly cycle is delayed and then it's not, or all the emotions you feel there.
I actually just posted about this in the group 2 weeks ago. Maybe it was last week. My cycles had been off up until last December. So I had been regular for 10 months. And then I am still late now. And they had been every about 35, 38 days, but now I'm very late.
Yeah.
And so I went and took a pregnancy test probably for the first time. Oh my word. I said months when I talked about it, but I think it's been a couple years since I've taken one.
Wow.
And it was negative, you know, and I took it right before I went to church. So I could have planned it out a little better, but I got home and it was just too much. And I curled up in a ball and I put my weighted blanket over me, and Will came in and laid there next to me and just said, I got you. And I just cried it out and went on with my evening. And it's, you know, this, and then Thursday I was fine. And, you know, you never know when it's going to bother you.
Sure. Yeah. And you can't prepare for it because you don't know. It just comes. Let's get into some questions here of what should we not say And I mean, you can even get as personal as you want. This is what someone told me. But what should we not say? How can we educate ourselves? I want to be the woman there that's helping someone. I've had friends that struggle with it also. So what should I not say?
Don't say, doesn't your rescue pit replace the desire to have a child?
Ooh.
I've had that.
Wow.
Personally, that has been said to me. Or if people know we're fostering, well, now that you're fostering, you don't want to have a kid, right? It's like, no, I mean, we're fostering because we want kids. Like, it doesn't take away the desire for a biological child.
Sure.
Honestly, it just comes and goes. Like, don't say so-and-so just had a baby. Aren't you next? Isn't it about your turn? Things like that. And honestly, one of my biggest things is if I know you're praying, that's enough for me. But some women just, and it sounds so terrible, but some people just get tired of hearing that. Like, yes, I know you're praying, and it's like,
but okay. I would say too, maybe like if we were more specific, I am praying for you to have peace tonight. I am praying for you to feel God's comfort tonight. I am praying for you to be blessed in a certain, just blessed today, not just the cliche of I'm praying for you. I think if there was some meaning behind it, that might mean a little bit more. There's a few things that I wrote down that I thought of, that you want to say, like, just relax, you're too stressed all the time. Just relax. It'll happen. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. I can't imagine if I'm in that position, how that would hurt if I heard that. I did read too, like, don't push adoption on someone. Don't do that.
It's not everybody has that desire. Now, Will and I have had that desire. We knew before we were even married. It's always been a desire of ours to adopt or foster, even before we knew each other. So for us, adoption, fostering has always been an option.
But I still feel like they're two separate things. If someone wants to adopt, that's fine. But like you said, they still want a biological child.
And that's their decision. And some people won't foster or adopt, and that's fine. That's between them and their husband or their partner and the Lord. I mean, it's just, it's not for everybody. And some people just don't understand that. It's like, well, if you want a kid bad enough, why wouldn't you adopt, or why wouldn't you foster? And it's like, you have to mentally prepare to foster, because you can have a child for 13 months and have to give that child back.
Right.
Like, you have to know that you're mentally prepared for that and that your heart can take it. And some people don't think that they can, and that's fine.
Yes, that is fine.
And people just have to understand that this isn't your infertility journey, it's theirs.
Yeah. And
they need to make the decisions that's best for them. Infertility is hard enough without you pressuring them to do things that they don't want to do.
Absolutely. So this question is I think it's an important question if you're open to answering it. Let's say that you found out you're expecting. How do you tell your friend? Like how would you share that with them? Would it be a phone conversation? Would it be a text? You don't want to hurt them, but if they found out from someone else that you were expecting, that would hurt also. How could we share that with someone?
I actually have a friend who is also struggled with infertility. She and her husband just recently found out they were expecting. So happy for them. They're getting their miracle.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's hard to hear, but she was she is one of my infertility besties. I have a few of those that, when it's dark, I text them or we call each other, however we get in contact. And she sent me a text message. She said, hey, look, I went to the doctor because of this and this, and I was late and I wasn't, everything at home said negative. So she went in for some blood work, and it turns out she's pregnant. So she sent me a text saying that I went to the doctor, they ran some tests, and it turns out I'm expecting. I know this is hard for you to hear, and I want you to know that if you need to take a step back from talking to me, then that's fine, and I totally understand. But I wanted you to know that I'm still praying for you and I love you. And that was fine. Yeah. It was fine. I responded, I think, back within an hour because I was driving or something. But it's just, a lot of it is the consideration.
Yeah.
Like, we had somebody very close to us who got pregnant while on birth control. And it's like, yeah. And I know it's not 100% effective, but it's like, really?
Yeah.
And we later found out after we knew that they contemplated for 4 days on how to tell us because they knew where we were at and what we were struggling with and didn't want to come across cold-hearted about it and telling us, And so Will and I have talked about it a lot, and it's the consideration doesn't take away the hurt, but it takes away the sting of it, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Like, just to nonchalantly say, hey, I'm pregnant, like, that's what hurts sometimes. And for some people, it may be just in general finding out that somebody's expecting. I was there. I get that. This sounds terrible, but when I was seeing a pregnancy post, I was automatically unfollowing that person on Facebook. I was still friends, but I was not in a place mentally where I could see the bump updates or the gender reveals or anything like that. And I had to protect myself because I knew that my mental attitude towards it all was affecting my husband. And that's not fair to him.
Right.
So it's just the consideration behind it all goes a long, long way.
Yeah. Take your time, think about it, pray about it, and handle it. What I want to say, like, who has been your biggest supporter and what have they done? How could we implement that ourselves to help someone?
My husband, first and foremost, has been wonderful because me being vulnerable is him being vulnerable because, you know, you're together. Yeah, we're the husband and wife in the situation. And from day one, he's just been, what do we need to do? Let's do it. Who do we need to get to look at the script? Who do we need to get to design it? What can we do next? When is the next resource coming out? How can we approach it to be helpful to others to the best of our abilities? Like, how can we impact the most? And just, so my husband, obviously, and then my sister, who designed and typed the wonderful devotional, could not have done it without her because that is not my forte.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yes, my sister designed that. Pretty. Shout out to my sister Cassie.
The back of it here.
So she designed everything. I would tell her what I wanted, and she would send me what she had, and we would tweak it if I wasn't 100% on it. But she did all of that. She's been a wonderful help. And then just my parents and my few, like I said, infertility besties. Yeah. We've gone back and forth a lot. Even my best friend who has 2 kids of her own. She got married, I think a year or so before I did, or maybe longer than that, but has 2 wonderful children. And honestly, she and I had not talked about how infertility affected me watching her be a mom. And then last year in September, I stopped by her house on my way to Texas. I stopped by her house and spent the night there. And I actually just opened up and told her and how I felt and how I was feeling about, you know, watching her be a mom. And I wasn't mad at her. It's never anger towards another mom. Yeah. Like, obviously, because she can't help the fact that she got pregnant. Like, you know what I mean? Right. It's something God wanted, and that's how it happened. But our relationship has been even stronger since then. Like, before that, I would just text her and say, it's a really rough night. Can you just pray? And she would always, of course, you know. But now that she knows, it's like, I can't imagine how that makes you feel. I'm so sorry. I don't know what that's like, but I'm here if you need me. Oh, wow. So it's like, that's just, the community is so, so very important, which is why I started the Facebook group and the Instagram page, because that community has really saved me sometimes over the last few months, because it's been a rough couple months, and I can't pinpoint why. Usually you can't. Yeah. But it's just been a rough couple months in an infertility funk, and that I've run to that group and been like, what do you do? What is your process when you get in this way? And they've just been very helpful, and I've loved it. Who knew when you started it that it would be there to help you as much as you help them? So tell us, where can we find you online? How can we connect with you? Facebook is Real Talk, one word, capital R, capital T, -infertility. And then Instagram is Real Talk _infertility, all lowercase. Instagram page is public. Facebook group is private. My whole goal is to make infertility not a taboo topic. So I kept the Instagram page public, because if it's private, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of it not being a taboo topic. And I don't necessarily get as deep as we do in the Facebook group. But I still do share, like the other day I was telling you, or when I just said that I curled up under my weighted blanket and cried. that I post on the Instagram page because that's what I'm sharing. I'm never sharing what other people have said in the Facebook group. If I post something vulnerable on the Instagram page, it's because I chose to and it's about me. But the Facebook group is private. All you have to do is request to join. The Facebook group is females only, just because sometimes some women aren't aren't comfortable sharing that with a man. And that's totally understandable. My own husband's not even a part of the group. And, you know, we kind of started it together in a sense.
Yeah.
So Facebook group is private, just request to join. And, you know, you can even post in there. All I have to do is you request a post and I just read over it. And as long as I don't feel like it's going to hurt anybody's feelings, so to speak, or bother somebody in that sense, then I post it. So it's a very open group once you're in, and I post I try to post a couple times a week. Every Saturday we do a something about me Saturday question. And
fun.
Like this week, I forget what Will suggested I ask, but like it's usually, you know, where would you vacation? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? Things like that.
So it's fun, lighthearted also. I like that.
Yes.
Not just the hard, dark stuff.
Yes.
Last question for you. What keeps you motivated on those dark days?
Honestly, this sounds terrible. I don't know that there's anything that motivates me. It's just that I know it will get better. Mm-hmm. And you just kind of have to sit with it. Because if you don't sit with it, you get bitter, you get angry, you get jealous. And I'm not talking like the I want a baby too. It's the ugly jealousy, like, you know. And I've just learned, I was not a crier up until about a couple years ago. And I've just really learned that you have to grieve. You're grieving the loss of a child you can't have. And it's one of those things that if you don't sit and feel it, it'll just fester and it'll change who you are as a person. It'll affect your marriage. It'll affect your relationships. And it's not worth it to me.
Yeah. And
you just kind of have to sit in it. I would never say there's something that motivates me. And I think my husband would agree, because when it gets dark, we just sit there. Like, in my book, I talk about last Thanksgiving, we got word of a teenage pregnancy 20 minutes into making our Thanksgiving dinner, because we had just been exposed to COVID, so we didn't come home. Okay. So we just had the two of us, and we were in there making the ham and all the things in my tiny, tiny kitchen, which I know you've seen. So that was a miracle in and of itself.
Yes. Good memories.
But we got word, and I just blew it off at first. And about 20 minutes later, I lost it. Just like, I was screaming, I was angry, and it was all directed at God. And Will was so shocked by the way I had reacted, because I'd never yelled at God like that in front of him. Like, we've had some rough heart-to-hearts, but he had never heard that. So I just went into the bathroom and I sobbed, and then I pulled myself together, or so I thought I had. And I came back out, and he just looked at me, and I could just see the pain in his eyes. And that's when it hit me that, like, this hurts him too, a lot. And we just collapsed on the kitchen floor crying together, waited it out, sat in the darkness, and then got back up and went on our merry way making our Thanksgiving dinner. So it's just, you have to sit in it.
Yeah.
You just have to sit in it.
That's hard.
Yes. Hard. It's not pretty.
I'm going to ask one final thought from you, and I'm going to give you a minute to think about it. So whenever we have a guest on the podcast, I love to ask the question of, what is one statement that you would like for us to blast out all over the world? And it doesn't have to be in relation to this topic. It can be whatever. If you had one sentence that we were going to blast out to the entire world, what would it be? And while she's thinking about that, I just want to remind you, to the Girl Talk community that's listening, no matter what you're going through, whether it's infertility or something else that you're struggling with, you are not alone, because Heavenly Father loves you so much. And our names are written on the palm of on his hand. He knows the deepest desires and the pains in our hearts. And I just want to encourage you, go to him. Go to him. Like Mylee said, you can cry out in anger to him, but he will always be there for you. So don't feel like you're forgotten, because you most definitely are not. All right.
Okay. I personally would say, no matter what you're facing, if it's dark, let somebody pull up a chair and sit with you.
Which is what you're known for saying. So I love it. All right. If you on the Girl Talk community, check out Mylee. Like we gave you her Instagram and her Facebook. We'll tag it in the notes also. But reach out to her. If you are, especially if you're struggling with infertility, if you just want to connect with her because she's a lot of fun, or if you want to see that tiny kitchen that she was talking about.
Or my puppy.
Oh, Ani, yes.
Puppy's a selling
you
point.
can also look Mylee up herself on Facebook and Instagram, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So, and then she's got links for her devotional on her website also, which is, I just looked at it for the first time today. It's beautiful, and I love that it's from her heart, and it will be an encouragement to you. So we will catch you guys next time on the Girl Talk. Hey, girlfriends, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our podcast today. We are grateful to have you here.
We are Girlfriends Just Talking. We want to encourage women to live an intentional, powerful, positive, and spirit-filled life.
Come check us out over on Instagram and Facebook, where we have a community of women encouraging other women. We'll see you there.